Hey, and welcome to Author Talk with Daniel José Older. Today I have with me renowned author and Twitter loudmouth, let's be honest, that's really what he's known for, Daniel José Older. And thank you for coming today. Really wonderful to have you. Thank you for having me. I've heard wonderful things about your vlog and all your amazing YouTube work, so it's an honor to be here. I see you got really dressed up for this occasion. That's nice. Well, yeah, this is my favorite t-shirt. And thank you. Nice hat, by the way. No, actually, I really like your hat. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a nice hat. Anyway, he is here to talk about his brand new novella, Ghost Girl in the Corner, a shadow shaper novella, which he dropped out of the blue. First of all, let's talk about this. You just dropped this book right out of the blue. You just dropped it on the timeline. Like you Beyonce. You know you're not Beyonce, right? Yes, I know I'm not Beyonce, and neither are you. Bah! Oh, you know what? You didn't have to do that. Yes, I know that too. Thank you. Okay, that's true. Yeah. However, what was the thinking behind that? No, you know what it was? First of all, people are sick and tired of pre-ordering shit, and I'm just tired of telling people to pre-order stuff, and it's like this constant cycle of like, hey guys, I have a book coming out in 16 months. Here's the dope cover. Here's a link. And then people just get mad. So I didn't want to go through that again. And, it seemed like a really good opportunity. So I brought it to Scholastic. They were very cool about it. And boom, there it is. Dropped it on the timeline. And I'm really glad it worked out. I was not that good at keeping the secret, but I did my best. Towards the end especially, I certainly started just telling folks, but it was still a surprise, I think. And, it felt like a gift, and Lord knows we all need gifts at this moment in time, especially gifts that are books, which is the best gift of all. It seemed like a nice way to do it. So let's get into the why, right? Why did you write this book? Why T and Izzy? This started coming very naturally. I kind of went through the different characters, and I was like, who wants to be in a story now? And T and Izzy have really been two of my favorite characters this whole time. The process of writing both Shadow Shaper and Shadow House Fall, I love T and Izzy a lot. And I've always wanted to see kind of where they would go if they were given the space to go somewhere. And this was an opportunity to do that. Why this story? Why right now? So, a couple years after I moved to New York City, a girl named MonAmour was killed. She was kidnapped and murdered by some boys in her neighborhood. She was a black girl, Guyanese, and in her early 20s, a Hunter student. And like with many women of color, particularly black women who were murdered, the story was not covered. It was in the back pages of the police blotter, maybe. Meanwhile, shortly after that, a white girl was kidnapped and murdered, and the covers were for days and days and days talking about it. And it really haunted me. It really broke my heart on a lot of levels to see it that starkly. And at the time, I knew I was a writer, but I didn't know how to get my voice out there, and I didn't know how to tell that story, but I knew that story was an important one that the world needed to talk about more than it was. So I tried. I interviewed a reporter from the Daily News who was really open and real about the race dynamics that go into who gets to be on covers and who gets covered. And mind you, the NYPD, specifically in the MonAmour case, they said she's probably with her boyfriend. It's such an outrage. It still hurts thinking about that and the response and the way that the world moved on and forgot MonAmour, and the way that her family had to fight so hard to get the police to do their jobs and then to get any attention. It continues to break my heart. So at the time I tried to write about it and I failed. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know if it was a screenplay inside of me or an essay or what, but it just lingered. And then maybe like 10 years later, a couple years back, when I was now with more of a voice and more of a writer, I did write about it in an essay, and actually the first essay that I published online for Salon, about that experience of that happening and trying to figure out how to say it and not knowing how to say it. And it's still with me, and that's the first thing that came to mind as I was sort of sorting through what this story was going to be and what T and Izzy's emotional experience was going to be and their journey through this, which is ultimately a murder mystery. But it's about all those things, and it's about the way that we're haunted sometimes by not just by presences or spirits, but we're haunted by injustice, I think, and we're haunted by oppression, and we're haunted by the things that we do to each other in very real ways. And sometimes we have to perform exorcisms, and sometimes writing is a form of exorcism or a form of cleansing, which isn't even to say that story is over inside of me. It will never be. And it's compounded also by my work that I was doing at the time as a paramedic, right? Because we would have these bodies that would never be identified. And when I was a new paramedic, I would run over to the papers the next day and try to see what had happened to my patients. And because most of my patients were black and brown folks in the Bronx or Brooklyn, they wouldn't be in those papers, or they would just be in that police blotter section maybe. And I learned that lesson. And so seeing that very real disappearance happen, that second level of disappearance that happens to crime victims of color, that was to see it so real, because I knew those people, or I was with them right before or right after they died. And that's a powerful moment to be present for, and then to watch disappear from the news entirely or never even show up. So that's why I wrote it. Talk to me a little bit about Shadow House Fall. So Shadow House Fall is the follow-up to Shadow Shaper. The novella that we're talking about today, Ghost Girl in the Corner, takes place in between the two books. But Shadow House Fall is the next full-length Shadow Shaper novel, and it's everything levels up, let's say. There's a whole new form of magic in the game right now that is based kind of on a cursed tarot deck, basically. It's not tarot, but it is a system of cards that speak about and also manipulate the real world, the living world. And the Sorrows are back in the game, and you will see some characters from Salsa Nocturna and from other stories. And the Shadow Shapers are kind of coming into their own because they're the top dogs now. Sierra knocked out all these other folks, and now she's here. But she has no leadership. She has no elders to really look to. And so she's trying to find her way as a leader of a community that's just finding its footing. And it's October, so school is in session, and they're dealing with the complexities of state violence enacted in the school system, and authority in general, and growing up. And I'm really excited about it. It was so much fun to write, and it's coming soon. September 2017. These are some heavy times we're living in. What do you feel is the role of the artist or the writer in these heavy times? These are heavy times, and I honestly don't totally know the answer to that question. It's something I've been thinking a lot about, and I've always thought a lot about. Part of why I became a writer was to respond to heavy times, and just like I've been talking about, that's a form of healing, of self-care, and of survival. And it's a way of healing, I think, outside of ourselves too. I know it grows me as a human being to write, and I like to think that the world becomes a better place when we tell true stories, especially those difficult truths. So, to come back to your question, the artist's job is to speak directly to the moment that we live in, and that can make for some heavy art, but it's also to find balance, right? We're doing nobody any favors if we just throw more shit on top of the shit storm. Our job is to be honest, but our job is also not to just grind people down and act like that's some higher form of truth-telling. If we don't offer hope in the midst of that hell, what are we doing, right? We're just telling people to sit back down, really. So I don't abide by just overly grueling, like life sucks and then you die, or oppression is so awful, just give up type of dystopian fiction. Or anything, because we need hope right now, and there's truth in hope, even if it's faint and it's a glimmer. Part of our job as artists is to find it, not to create a fantasy or a lie around hope, but to be very starkly honest about the world we live in, and both sides of both. Well, there's many sides. It's not both ever, but all the different complexities of that. We live in times of deep despair and times of amazing resistance and empowerment. Both of those things are true. You know, the story of this age is both of Black Lives Matter and of the ongoing police killings. You know, it is Donald Trump, and it is so many other things too. So if we're being honest, we can reach all those, not all of them, but we can find those different truths and put them up next to each other and then see what we find. And I think that's our job. So what comes next? What's next? Ghost Girl in the Corner just dropped in January. In fact, on January 3rd, Battle Hill Bolero comes out. Battle Hill Bolero is the final installment of the Bone Street Rumba series, which is my adult urban fantasy series. Comes out from Rock Books of Penguin, and it's kind of a heavy book. Speaking of heavy times, it's a war book for sure. I kind of was taking the idea of the epic war fantasy novel and overlaying it across Brooklyn, because that seems like a good idea, right? And so yeah, that's the end of the series. It all comes down to that. Salsa Nocturna, by the way, recently I re-released it. It's available on ebook everywhere, and it's a good lead into Battle Hill Bolero, because it kind of talks about the different characters that you meet, and some of the ones that you'll meet in that book that you haven't met yet in the other two novels. So check out Salsa Nocturna. That came out October 1st. Battle Hill Bolero comes out January 3rd, and in September, Shadow House Fall. You look really good. No, you look really good. You look right now is good, because you look dapper. I'm just, you know what I mean? But I don't know what to. You look good. You look sexy. Like, what are you doing there? Wow. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Oh, you know what? Tell them where they can buy the book. Tell them where they can find your work. Tell them all the good things that you need to tell them. You know the drill. I am on Twitter at DJ Older. I'm on Facebook. It's my name. My website is danieljoseolder.net. You can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Kobo, Thingamajiggy, IndieBound, all the different sites. Ghost Girl in the Corner is there. Go look for it. It's out from Scholastic, and it kicks ass. I heard you make cute YouTube videos. Is that true? Because that's what they say on Twitter. You know, that's just, I heard that if you weren't such a racist and worked harder on your writing, then you would be a better writer, but you do make cute YouTube videos, so that's good. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. World famous YouTuber right here. I mean, what an honor, you know? Whew. Subscribe, like, favorite, share. And tune in next week. Probably won't be a video next week, but tune in the next time there's a video, and it will be dope. Look at this monster. Okay, look at this monster.
Stupid. Oh God.
Look at this monster. Monster. You wanna get up? You wanna get up? What do you wanna do? You wanna buck? Okay.